Hello and welcome to a very rare edition of Gaming Like It's 2020. I've spent a lot of time with you talking about older games, but this weekend I've been playing Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, their new version, and I'm quite enjoying it, so I'm going to just play through one of their, what they call their bush flights today. I'm going to do one leg of the bush flight. We're going to go to the activities menu. Let me go here to bush trips. At the moment there are only 3 bush trips, although it looks like they're going to add more. We're doing the Breckenridge to Mariposa Yosemite. And as you can see, we finished the first 3 of these legs. I love this last little short leg. That was quite fun. And we're going to be doing a very long leg today, 75 nautical miles. In real time should take about, they say 49 minutes. My experience is I fly slower than they expect me to. This is not going to be a 49-minute video. I'm going to edit out some of the straight and level parts. Let's hop into our Zlin Savage Cub. Here we are at Manzanar Airport, which is a seemingly abandoned strip in the middle of the Nevada desert. So before you do anything, you want to read through the instructions carefully in your navlog, because these are your only clue. There is a button here that says back on track that will give you a purple GPS line. If you click that button, you will not get credit for having finished the bush flight successfully. So they say it's going to take around, I believe they said 49 minutes. If experience is any guide for me, it would take me more like an hour and a half real time. I tend to fly much slower than the recommended cruise speed. I may cheat a little bit in the sense of turning up the sim rate to get past some of the slow parts here. Okay, let's take a look at our map. So our final destination is this airstrip 056. So let's zoom out. Alright, so it is largely a straight shot. Well, with that, let's take off. Now, the Savage Cub is almost impossible to see over the dashboard when you're trying to take off, and I prefer the external view anyway. Release the parking brakes. Throttle up. Nice thing about the Cub is it has a takeoff speed of practically nothing. 40 knots, which is, I guess, around 45 miles an hour. You see, I didn't even use flaps to take off, and we're still climbing the plane. Ground. There's the road, beautiful scenery. The game gives these little heads-up warnings all the time, a little too frequently for my taste. So we're going to start tacking around to the north, check our heading. A little too far. 313. Oh, so that was the road. I thought we needed to go further. Beautiful river there, and over there is Highway 395. So we're actually a little bit higher than I like to be on these bush trips. I like to stay fairly low because I find it makes it easier to find the landmarks. Just start trimming those down a bit to try and control our altitude. I've already made a mistake. I should have started the clock when we took off. Although I suspect that that is the town of Independence right up ahead of us. So I find that generally I prefer the chase camera view to the in-cockpit view. A lot of these planes, particularly the manual planes where I'm not having to constantly look at GPS. There are some downsides to it. If you're in chase cam view, you very much will not hear stall warnings and the like, which can be a bit of a problem. So if you're doing anything particularly tricky, it's probably better to be in the cockpit. No one in the back seat, but if we go to the exterior view, we have two people. They're ghosts. Alright, so we are about at, I believe, the town of Independence. At least that's my guess. So let's say that this is our first point of interest. Using the road as your guide, continue north. Find lava flows and cinder cones at the Big Pine volcanic field to the west. And then the Tinemaha Reservoir, about 10 minutes ahead. So we're going to reset the clock here. I sure hope this is Independence and we're going over. I guess we're going to find it. Hope I'm wearing a hat. One of the things I don't like about the Cub is sometimes with these planes, I really enjoy using the cockpit controls directly rather than using the HOTAS or the keyboard or mouse. And one of the controls that you use a lot is the trim. And I, for the life of me, cannot figure out if it's even possible to set trim in this plane. I presume the real plane may not even have a trim control. And when I use it on the HOTAS, I'm in fact cheating. But be that as it may. Now my belief is if you were actually flying a bush trip, you would rather be fairly high because it makes it easier to navigate. But I'm playing a video game and I like being closer to the ground where I can see all the game's detail. Since we have at least an 8-minute stretch ahead of us, I'm going to take the opportunity to cut the video here. We're probably about 5 minutes away from the reservoir. I believe that's it up ahead, that body of water. A couple of notes about the bush trips. I've seen a few people asking questions on Reddit and elsewhere. One thing to note is that most of the airstrips, well, so far every airstrip that I've landed on has no air traffic control services and no ground services. So all the fuel you have is all the fuel you're going to get, and there isn't enough fuel to do most of these trips. So what do? Well, there is a key in the game that repairs and refuels your plane. So you should find that feature to a key. It's literally called repair and refuel. Seems like an oversight to me in the game that they didn't really account for that. The second question I've heard a lot is, how do I win a segment? How do you get it registered? People have been landing at what they think is the target, and the game doesn't seem to end. The answer is, the target is almost, at least so far, every segment I've done, the target has been the runway. So what you want to do is land on the runway and turn off your engine, power down your plane. When you do that, the game will make a big deal of it and give you essentially a dialog box saying, yes, you've registered this segment. I also want to say the audio quality on this clip may be not up to par. I'm using a different recording setup because I normally don't record from a Windows box, so I apologize in advance if this is below the standards I set. And I'll reset the clock basically over top of this lake. Alright, let's adjust our heading to 321. Turned a little too sharp there. I'm okay descending for a bit. I'm going towards the town of Big Pine. A town that bears the geologic scars of a 1922 earthquake. Okay. Oh, I see. It's called Crater Mountain. I was hoping it was an actual crater. So they said Big Pine bears the scars of an earthquake. And I'm guessing that's that. those lines running running along the highway. Right, so where's this highway going? Where does that highway lead to? Alright, so we're about at Big Pine. I'm going to reset the clock. Our next leg, we're going to keep following 395, so I'm assuming that that's this northern route here. The mule capital of the world. Alright, I want to see the mule capital of the world. 8 minutes and 41 seconds, starting now. Alright, coming up on 7 minutes and 30 seconds since our last point of interest, and I'm thinking this is the town of Bishop. We did pass what looked like Klondike Lake. The waters were not glistening. I'm very disappointed. I was promised glistening waters. So here we're going to try to pick up Route 6 after 395 splits off to the west. So let's see if we can spot where this all happens. Alright, I think this might be... There we go, right up ahead. Ah. Hard to see here. But there's 395 turning off to the west. We are not going to follow that. We're just going to keep going straight. I think largely we're just going to follow the road. Now it does tell us outside the city limits, Route 6 will turn briefly east, only to then turn north again. So I think this is Highway 6 turning east. Let's follow it. Not get distracted by that road. Now this is an example of where the bush lights can get confusing. I don't have a road sign. I don't have anything on the map indicating that this is Route 6. So I could be wrong. If this road doesn't turn north again, then I might have to backtrack. And of course, if I do that, now my kind of timing is to decide when I need to be near my next point of interest would be all wrong. You might notice that I have fuel again. I was curious what would happen if I press the refuel button. Would it just do it in flight? And the answer is yes, it's magic. So that's always an option. Alright, so this road does look like it is curving off to the north. The gap between how good the best places in Flight Sim 2020 look and how good the kind of you're out in the country and there's no hand modeling looks, it's pretty high. I would even say that what we're seeing here looks about the same quality as Flight Sim X, which is, it's a little bit better. Alright, so now we're looking for the town of Chalfont. So I'm controlling this game with too many controllers. Primary flight controls I've mapped to a very old flight stick, the Cytec Aviator. I must have gotten it 10, 15 years ago. And when I'm in exterior mode, I'm actually using a mouse to look around. Alright, I'm wondering, looks like there's a town up here. Can't see over the deck of my cockpit. I'm wondering if that's Chalfont. So what's our next, so if this is Chalfont, then our next point of interest is going to be 7 minutes past that. Tracts of farmland along with an isolated oblong body of water to the east. And I don't think I saw any water on the map. Well, my time is right, so I'm going to trust myself and say that this is Chalfont. Let's take a look at it outside. Yeah, it's a cute little town. Is there a baseball diamond? There can't be a real town without a baseball diamond. Alright, let's declare that this is Chalfont. Start our clock. We're going 7 minutes to 335 degrees. When the game looks good, it looks really good. I should note, my computer will play this game at 4K. It gets a little loud, so I dropped it to 1080p to see if that would make it a little bit quieter, and it did. It is still beautiful even at 1080p. I'll have to do another video kind of showing you this at 4K. We are seeing some farmland here, so that's a good sign. I don't see how we can have an isolated body of water off to the east. East is basically mountains. Maybe we need to get past them? Not sure. Perhaps in that gap there, perhaps that's a gap and there's water through it. I guess we'll see. I was saying to a friend of mine how much I really enjoy flight sims, and that every time I really get into them, I'm gripped with two feelings. One feeling is, man, flying is so cool. I shouldn't just do flight sims. I should actually go learn how to fly in real life. And then the other feeling is the absolute 100% certainty that I would have a plane accident if I was actually put behind the wheels, put behind the yoke of a plane. Well, we've reached 7 minutes and 3 seconds. I guess this small, very man-made looking lake could be, well, it is oblong, isn't it? Isolated oblong body of water. Okay. I guess that's it. I was looking for a big lake or something. Let's reset our timer. Let's start our timer. Next we're going to Benton. Carry up the road as rolling hills rise to the west. Benton comes to view ahead. Yes, here's some rolling hills starting to rise. And this leg is only 5 minutes. You'll know you've arrived when you reach the main crossroads. See the town's scattered collection of trees. I don't think this can be Benton. This feels like we're here too soon. Also doesn't look major enough. They said to look for trees. We might be too high to see trees. Well, there's some trees there. Yes, it is a crossroads. Outside of Benton, Route 6 bends northeast. Bending northeast? Well, I'm going to go ahead and reset the clock anyway. Supposedly our next milestone is only 5 minutes away, and that's going to be the airstrip. So that road is sure going in the right direction if it's Route 6. Once you've crossed over, look for the remains of an old ranch on the west side of the road. Locals call the dirt runway beside it Madam Airport. I've got a visual here of what we're looking for. That might be it in the distance. So the interesting thing about these bush flights from my perspective is in fact the uncertainty. When you're flying under normal flights and conditions with kind of full navigation, right, it's going to be pretty rare that you actually feel completely lost. And I'll tell you right now, I'm uncertain. We might be flying for another 2 minutes, and we might find that airstrip. Or we might realize that an hour ago I took the wrong turn. I think we made it. I'm just going to go straight in. There's no air traffic control here. Set the camera a little bit. Drop the flaps a little more. This might be a rough landing. This is where I embarrass myself. If we crash, if I land too hard, break the plane, that's it. We have to start over from the previous checkpoint. The entire 45 minutes or so of flying has to get done again. I know. It's going to be challenging. Oh, no! That was a little bit hard. Never get in a plane if I'm flying it. That's my advice to you. Alright, what I've found is the brakes on this plane, at least in game, are amazingly weak. There we go, we stopped. We found Madam Airstrip. We found Madam Airport. Fabulous. Well, that was an entire leg of a bush flight. As I said, takes me a little longer than they estimated 49 minutes. Took me 55. That's actually better than I did on the first couple of legs. But now I hope you've seen, soup to nuts, what a bush flight looks like when someone who is not a very good pilot is flying it. So this has been Gaming Like It's 2020. Thanks for watching.